doing something has a stronger effect than just thinking about it.
You have to slow down to feel embodied gratitude.
Why aren't we doing that more? It's scientifically proven.
Welcome to the Mental Fitness Podcast by Eliza Chat, your weekly journey to mental fitness. This week, we're discussing something a little more festive. It's Thanksgiving week, a time when many of us gather with loved ones, share a meal, and are told to count our blessings.
But is that just a nice sentiment, or is there real measurable power in those words? Today, we are putting gratitude under the microscope. We're going beyond the turkey and the sweet potato casserole to discover the incredible chemical and neural changes that happen in your brain every time you sincerely say thank you or write down something you appreciate.
From the cultural tradition of the American Thanksgiving, a story rooted in harvest, shared meals, and yes, a history of expressing thanks, to the neuroscientific proof that gratitude literally boosts your dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin levels. We'll explore various ways that practicing gratitude is one of the most powerful and free mental health tools you have.
Our guest today is Todd Olson, who is back by popular demand. Our previous episode with Todd, titled Small is Bigger, Slow is Faster, Nervous System Wisdom, has been one of our most popular episodes, and so we invited Todd back to dive a little deeper into the topic of gratitude.
Yeah, thanks for having me today, you guys. I want to ask you a question. When was the last time that you truly felt thankful or grateful? Just think about that for a moment. And for our audience, when's the last time you felt truly thankful?
I know there's been times when I've gone for long periods of time without feeling, but actually today, I'm religious. I was praying this morning and I was expressing gratitude for everything going on in my life, including this guy sitting next to me, which is why when I saw him this morning, I punched him in the arm, put my arm around him. I was like, so good to see you. I'm really grateful for the way things are going and what we're working on together. And so I felt it this morning, but sometimes it's not an everyday thing, unfortunately.
Yeah. So when you saw Luke, and you said you were grateful that you saw, how did you know that you were grateful?
I felt happy.
So how did you know you felt happy? So think about your body for a minute. So we're going to be talking about embodiment, right? Yeah. Versus just in my head. So how did you know what happened in your body?
Well, I was driving in today. I was thinking about it, and I actually gave him a phone call and said, hey, let's grab lunch together. And he's like in the process of finishing up his own lunch, so it was too late. But it was when I saw him, I lit up. I saw him. I'm like, oh, Luke's here.
There you go. So you lit up. And as I'm watching you, when you say that, your eyelids go up, your face comes back, and there's an embodiment, right? So there's something going on in your system. And that's a really good example of embodiment versus surface level thankfulness.
Yeah.
Which we can compare those two later on today. So Luke, what about you? When's the last time that you felt some thankfulness?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, Dave. I feel the exact same way. There was but one just happened last night. Sometimes this happens, like anyone that has small kids, sometimes you're just holding a newborn and like in a quiet moment when everything's just still and you just realize how beautiful that is. So that was a more emotional one for me, just like sitting in a dark room with a baby and it's just such a blessing. But
so let me ask you the same question, which is difficult. So we're not used to being asked this. How did you know it was beautiful?
It was, you could feel it. There was a warmth.
Okay. You had a warmth in your soul, right? And it was just settling and just boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good lesson on embodiment versus just in my head. Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for, and we're doing these gratitude journals where we just check off, and we're missing the boat if we're not careful.
Yeah, speaking of that, I think we want to get into the difference between surface level gratitude and embodied gratitude, which is what you just immediately started off with, Todd. And I'm just thinking about Thanksgiving. Tradition in my family, my wife's family, and any Thanksgiving families I've seen is we go around the table and everyone says something they're thankful for.
Yeah.
And it's great. And a lot of us are doing sort of checklist, surface level. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my health, different things. And then you get that one aunt and uncle or brother or sister that gets really emotional because you can tell they've embodied it and they're saying, I'm really grateful to be here with all of you. And then it changes the mood and everyone feels it.
Yeah.
And so
it's contagious.
Yeah. So let's just talk a little bit about the surface level versus embodiment.
Yeah, I should be grateful. I have so much to be grateful for compared to others. I'm lucky about all this. It's not wrong. It's just incomplete. It's just not finished. This kind of gratitude tends to be intellectual, socially acceptable, and short-lived. It's like the checklist. Everybody goes around the table and does their thing so they can get that over with so they can eat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
But embodiment is kind of what we just talked about a little bit. It's taken a little bit more time, right? So why am I grateful? And it slows everything down. And it's really nice to have an aunt or an uncle go first that knows that so they can set the tone, right? Embodied gratitude is physiological. It moves from the mind into the body. So it's the mind-body combo that we talk about. You don't just think about gratitude, you feel it as warmth in the chest, a softening of breath, a sense of expansion in your system, just like what both of you were explaining today. That is embodied. That's what we want. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and restore. It's a good one. That's why I think it's nice to do those in the evening sometimes, because it helps us sleep. It helps us kind of settle. It increases our heart rhythm in a better way. And it activates the 3 happy chemicals of the 4 of dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. Those are 3 of the 4 happy chemicals. Why aren't we doing that more? It's scientifically proven, and we're not doing it. It feels grounded. It's slow. And it's real. Those are just some indicators that will help you.
I think you were mentioning before we started sort of something about Thanksgiving is often expressed by many as their favorite holiday.
Yeah.
And probably tied in part to this.
I think that's exactly why. Yeah. Embodied gratitude often arises spontaneously when we truly pause, seeing a sunrise, hearing a kind word, remembering someone's care, and allow that moment to register fully in our body before it moves on. So it takes some effort, right? Is gratitude automatic, or is it something we learn? It's like, I think we need to train ourselves a little bit and allow ourselves to do that.
Yeah.
So that's a good question.
Well, it seems like there's a deep connection between mindfulness and embodied gratitude, right? Because I think we can all recognize times we were grateful in the check off a list way, as you say.
Right.
That's common stuff. So fast paced, you almost feel like not guilt, but you realize you should be grateful. So that's when you start thinking of your list. I'm grateful for this, that.
Right.
But that mindfulness is a big role in the embodied.
Yeah. I think before we even go there, what's the science of gratitude? And the neuroscience of gratitude is those chemicals we just mentioned, those come into play, right? And practicing gratitude increases those chemicals, and it's long-term. There is a neuroscience about it. Gratitude and mental health, which is your guys' podcast, right? What does gratitude do with that? There's research from the U.S. Davis found that people who keep gratitude journals report higher optimism, better sleep, and fewer physical complaints. There's so much evidence on mental health with gratitude. Gratitude helps reduce toxic emotions like envy, resentment, shifting attention to what's going on in the person's life differently. Clinical trials show it can reduce symptoms of depression. It hits the same areas of the brain that antidepressants hit, and it helps us. Gratitude in relationships and communities, it helps with marriages. It helps with work environment. There's so many benefits of gratitude, and I'm glad that you guys are putting this on your podcast. That people need to hear it.
I've always believed where focus goes, energy flows. You know, what you focus on in your life is magnified.
Yeah.
And there's people that focus on their problems, and I believe their problems grow. And when people are focused on the good things in their life, those things grow.
Right. So I remember a book that really shifted me in my gratitude. I think it was 2017. It might have been 2018, but it was one of those years. And it's a book called The Gratitude Diaries from Janice Kaplan. And I first, I saw who's wrote this. She is a very well-known author. And back when I was a kid, when the Sunday paper came, they had comics that were color. And when you open the newspaper, so people don't even know about newspapers anymore. And inside was the Parade magazine. Well, she was the editor of the Parade magazine. She's just well known and written many books. And she went on a year-long journey of gratitude, and that's what her book is. And I recommend that book. She is brilliant on how she does that. And the reason I got the book is I had a major trauma in my life where one of my sons passed away. And it turned my wife our life upside down. It turned the siblings, my other kids' life upside down. And my first year and a half was like one long day. And to be able to tap into gratitude was impossible. And so I started reading more about that just to get a better understanding. And it was a gateway in to some gratitude, because we'll talk about that today, about what if people are having hardships and can they just start thinking positive and gratitude? No, I think that stuff gets in the way of that. They need to reset their nervous system so they can access gratitude. And she was talking to Matt Damon, and it was when he was in Africa, going to film Invictus, the soccer movie.
Yeah, South Africa.
And he took his family with him. And at that time, his 10-year-old daughter, Alexia, I think was her name, and he was going to drive through the town of Johannesburg, and he asked Morgan Freeman, who was in the movie, right? So what should I tell her? And Morgan Freeman said this: you don't have to tell her anything. Just let her see. That's all the education anyone needs. And it was the best advice I could have gotten. She just looked and looked and took it in. Those kinds of experiences can be life-changing. And then I read this about gratitude. His approach was just right. It turned out that empathy is the fundamental to gratitude. And to what psychologists now describe as emotional intelligence, various studies in brain and behavior suggest that IQ accounts only for 20% of a child's success in their life. A full 80% is determined by other factors that revolve around emotional style. When kids can step outside of themselves for a moment and imagine what it's like to be in someone else, they are better able to respond to other people's emotions and recognize their own. They also start to appreciate both and what they have and what the others have done for them. later on, she mentioned something else about money and gratitude. So or empathy. So I started looking at the empathy thing a little bit and studying that a little bit more.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So she was walking by a bakery in New York, and she smelled the fresh bread and stuff like that. And she remembered reading the story of the little princess. And this is what she said. Walking by the pastry shop, I remember reading A Little Princess as a child and being enraptured by Sarah, a little girl who has been left a pauper. Cold and hungry, she stared into the bakery shop window and thought she could smell the buns and imagine the warmth. She didn't have a penny to buy one. Reading that as a child made me cry and inspired my first stirrings of empathy. And then in quotes from the book, take one of my nickels, Sarah. It's not fair that you can't buy a bun. She went home, she got the book out and reread that part, and she goes, okay, I've got that. I closed the book with a sigh. It occurred to me that if I had paid more attention to Sarah when I was 8 years old, I would have had the whole money and gratitude question nipped in the bud. Because a couple of studies have shown that money used altruistically is money well spent. In an experiment at the University of British Columbia, people walking through the campus were randomly given money, like $5, and they were instructed that they had to spend it that day. And they must have collected their number or something because they did some follow-up. And the ones that spent that on themselves versus the ones that spent the money on other people,
Mm-hmm.
who do you think benefited the most? We know by this title of our podcast today. The money seemed special. At the end of the day, they reported a slight boost of happiness, those ones that spent it on someone else. And so I thought about that empathy thing, and it's so true, right? That's why aunt and uncle around the dinner table who are a little older and have some experience in life, I think can set the mood because they know what empathy is.
That's awesome.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I was listening to your story and just impressed that you've used gratitude. You are on your own personal journey of dealing with perhaps the greatest difficulty or trial of your own life, but you've incorporated all of this into your practice as well with your clients, with your patients.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've talked with you many times, and your understanding of the way gratitude can help us and the way you've employed it in your practice. I've heard those kinds of stories, but realizing you had to experience this firsthand.
Right.
And that probably gives you additional empathy as you're working with your clients.
You're right. So when someone cannot access gratitude, so what's going on in their life, right? That it's probably been so disrupted, and for us to be patient with them a little bit, but they need to get their nervous system back.
So what does someone do? If we have listeners and you feel like, I don't feel grateful.
Or if you've never felt the embodied gratitude or for a long time, maybe.
You can't access it.
Yeah. So look how quick you guys accessed it today, right? Because you guys are high functioning, you're doing well, and you could access that in 1 minute, right? It takes some time for them to do that. And so you slowly work with them to help them get in touch with it. And they have to be in touch with their body because they're numb. They're floating out there. It's like they're scrolling all the time and numb. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to be able to embody.
And they're scrolling to distract themselves, to stay numb, to distract themselves from really feeling.
Right. Or I can just stay really busy. I can work really hard. Workaholism is probably one of the hardest ones because it looks so positive, right?
It appears high functioning.
Yeah. So slowing down and helping someone start to orient towards joy instead of orient towards that negative, like how you started the podcast. People orient towards negative a lot. So if someone is really emotionally or physically upset during the holiday season, they need to reset. And let me ask you, what is it like in some homes on Thanksgiving morning
High stress.
And dad goes and plays football with the boys, or he goes riding his horse or hunting, and he's going to come back for Thanksgiving dinner.
And the partner's cooking all day.
Yeah. He walks in and he goes, uh-oh, this isn't good.
You can feel it in the air, yeah.
I think you've visited some of my family Thanksgivings. Yeah, no, that's interesting.
So how do you reset that? With everybody gathering now, people are showing up, people are late, they're coming in, they're bringing their extra food because they're helping out. Now everybody's around the table. What do you do?
Well, that's a question
That's what I want to know.
Is how can families make Thanksgiving more mindful, turning that dinner moment into more of a nervous system connection? Is it possible to do in a group setting?
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking based on what we've just talked about so far, and our tradition of going around and everyone saying most of us surface level things. How do we make that? I maybe even just like set the tone with starting. Say, let's just take a moment to reflect. Let's just take a moment to pause. We're so it's been hectic today. Let's all take a deep breath and then express some genuine gratitude. And then, I don't know.
Well, there's something about that because to get to the embodied gratitude takes intention.
Yes.
So it's slowing down the moment, like you're saying.
You can invite others, but you can't force them to.
Right. So by then, the nervous system is in survival mode, right? And it's not their fault. There's overwhelm. It's not weakness. It's biology, right? And in those moments, the goal isn't to say, think positive, snap out of it. Come on, let's be happy.
Right.
It just doesn't work, right? So what you're saying is there's some good things there. Let's just take a moment. Here's one thing you can do. Let's just take a moment of silence with all those little grandkids running around. It's going to be hard. As we're gathering here, I want you to think of one word, how you're showing up today. So just think about that. You can't say a phrase. You have to think of one word. What would it be? And then the people start saying that one word around the table. They could say tired. They could say overwhelmed.
Stressed.
But that's pretty honest. And it's a grounding thing. But they can also say love, belonging, connected. And you watch what happens as everybody says one word around the table. It's kind of fun, right? And that can really shift. And everything starts to settle a little bit.
I like the one word because it
requires more thinking.
It requires more thinking. Everyone's going to say, I'm grateful that all our families here together around the dinner table.
And then you say, okay, what's the one word that embodies
surface,
that?
Right? That's not embodiment.
That's surface. But the one word, like connection, when you just say the word connection, you start thinking more deeply about the one word.
Yeah.
And then the next person, you start thinking deeply about the next word.
And if you want to get really challenging, you say you can't repeat a word someone else has already said.
Yeah. There you go.
So just think about it, slowing down and doing anything to embody. So there's many things you can do. 1 year, my wife, or actually 2 or 3 years in a row, there's a tablecloth that we would use, and then we have Sharpies, and people would write down before they have dinner, they'd write down their gratitude.
On the tablecloth.
On the tablecloth,
That's
and
awesome.
then they put their name and date. So that the next year they look and say, "Oh, look at my handwriting when I was little."
Yeah.
Well, that was only 2 years ago.
Exactly. That's a good idea.
So it's kind of a fun one to do. Yeah.
That's a really good tip. This is a Thanksgiving focused special episode. And so those are some really good tips specific to Thanksgiving. But if we just zoom out a little bit and just think generally post-Thanksgiving, even post-holidays, we're into January, the January gloom. It's in a lot of places in the country, cold and dark. What are ways that you recommend with your clients that the tools or the habits that people can incorporate to start to embody gratitude in their lives?
So there's one that's a real powerful one, and that is the gratitude invite. In fact, she mentions it in her book, and if you research other authors who've written about gratitude, they say the same thing. Of all the positive strengths, we've looked at, people who are highest in gratitude are also highest in well-being. The correlation was strong, but Seligman, who's the father of positive psychology, so she's interviewing him, has raised the issue of causation versus causality. It was the old chicken and egg question. Does gratitude improve your well-being? Or do people with high level of well-being also feel more grateful? Which is it? The answers seem to be both. That means we can learn to be grateful, right? Grateful people typically have more friends and social interactions and a rosier view of life that helps them flourish, but you don't come by that naturally. What Seligman says, he called gratitude interventions, can have a big effect. And so there's some things you can do. As you go through the day, so he's talking about people logging their 3 gratitudes of the day, but he said this, very good. As you go through the day, take photos of the things that you might write about in your journal that night. Doing something has a stronger effect than just thinking about it. So I like this time of year when I can go, I travel east on a road for a while, and I can see the sunrise or just before the sunrise and the clouds that are there. I will often snap photos of that. And then when I come home, it's the opposite. It's the sunset. And then pretty soon it's going to be dark and dark. I go to work in the dark. I come home in the dark. I go, wait a minute. It's not as fun. I can't do my gratitude. So he says, take action. And he'll recommend that people take photos of things during the day.
That's a great idea. So more than just thinking or even thinking deeply, but the act of doing something, physically doing something related to that will help those thoughts become embodied.
An action helps cement the neurological pathways we're trying to encourage.
Awesome.
An action helps cement the neurological pathways we're trying to encourage. And so here we come to this next one. In his earlier research, Seligman had found that the intervention that caused the most noticeable improvement was the gratitude visit. Think of someone who has changed your life, who has benefited you, who has helped you, someone that has just been there. It's like your angel, right? It's those people you think of years past. My wife teaches 4th grade, and she does a great job with those kids. And what's amazing to me, this year alone, just so in September, she had 4 adults come back. She has junior high and high school kids come back all the time, especially on Friday, to just see her and give her a hug. That's weird. And all the other teachers go, what's going on? But she had 4 come back. And they said, Mrs. Olson, hi, I'm getting married. Here's my invitation. I'd like you to come.
Wow. 4th grade teacher.
She had 2 of those. She had a 3rd one come and say, Mrs. Olson, I'm on Broadway, and it's because of you. I couldn't wait to come and tell you. So how crazy is that, right? And the last one is, Mrs. Olson, I'm approved to student teach. I'm graduating from college and teaching. Can I student teach in your class? And she got it approved through the district. That girl started last week.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And so can you imagine how that made my wife feel? But also, how did it make those kids feel that were coming back and saying it? And the ones that do the giving of it benefit more.
Totally. Wow. That makes sense.
So the gratitude visit is physically visiting that person.
Yes.
And expressing the gratitude face to face.
In this plan, you start by thinking of someone who has changed your life for the better and sit down and write a letter of thanks. Make sure it's concrete, specific, about 300 words, and describes what the person did and how you were affected. Then arrange to get together with the person, not saying why. When you arrive, slowly and meaningfully read the letter, no interruptions allowed. Talk about embodiment. So that's my challenge for the listeners today, is for them to think about that, about someone in their life that has influenced them for good. Write the letter, 250 to 300 words. That's not that long, right?
A couple of paragraphs.
And say, hey, I want to meet with you. And then you meet with them and you read that letter. After the tears and hugs, it's pretty cool. There's embodiment. I promise. It will happen.
That's awesome. I'm getting emotional just thinking about it.
It's just a good thing to do.
That's awesome.
Being kind and having gratitude is just good.
It's good and it's good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. The chicken and egg thing you were just talking about. Where do we start? Where does someone start? I mean, that's a huge reason why we are pushing this terminology of mental fitness. Because whether you start with self-awareness, recognizing maybe your nervous system's off, or mindfulness and that intuitiveness into your body, or you start with gratitude, those all are interconnected.
Yeah.
So you can start on any of these things but these things seem surface level. When you say, oh, you practice self-awareness to see what it does for you. It's like, okay, I feel like I'm pretty self-aware. Like a lot of people don't realize the depth of those things.
Right.
Yeah.
Like gravity.
Yeah. Right.
So just notice how, and for the listeners out there, just notice how you're being supported right now. Notice your feet, if they're on the ground, or your seat in the chair. Are you firmly seated? Can you feel that? And if you think about gravity for a minute, it holds the whole world together, right? And then if you can be part of that whole world, now I'm part of gravity, whether you have a religious practice or if your religion is nature, doesn't matter. I'm feeling part of this world, and there's a purpose. And I can feel gravity, and I like it. It reminds me I'm part of a bigger story.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if we just take time with that, right? Because we don't pay attention to gravity. It's just hard when we're going upstairs.
Yeah.
Right? We're out of shape. So I think, Luke, what you're saying is start somewhere.
Yeah.
Start with some simple mindfulness practices and start with some gratitude. Write those gratitudes down at night and then think of the why you put that down.
Yeah, the why. Just in the month or so since we talked last about that, That's really impacted me. Even when I'm part of my faith, multiple times a day I'm praying and I'm enumerating the things that I'm grateful for.
Yes.
But often those were surface level because this is a practice that I believe is important. So I'm saying the things that I know I should say. But as I've tried to go deeper and express the why, it's made those prayers more meaningful.
Right. I like that. So I'm a church goer, and I remember a time for about a year. So we used to get these printed programs. Now I think things are electronic, but we got printed programs. And I didn't know that my wife was doing this, but she saved all of these. And so on the program, I wrote poetry to her during church meeting. And it was always a poem about how cool she is, right? And stuff like that. And so it took me some time to write it and to figure out, and that doesn't rhyme, this rhymes. And then I didn't think it really meant that much to her, but I think she saved them all. That was kind of, I don't know if I want to see those.
Well, now you need to publish them in a book, in a small book.
Yeah. Yeah, roses are red, violets are blue. It's probably some
I'm sitting here and pretty
elementary. Anything you can do to get in touch with gratitude, I would do.
What's one personal gratitude ritual you try to practice regularly, and what changes have you noticed in that?
Yeah. So the first thing is I needed to educate myself more on it. And so that's what I did back in 2016, 2017. and to learn more about that and see the real deal about it, that it wasn't just fluffy. And then I'll do annual gratitudes. I'll choose a word for the year that I'm going to focus on. March 4th is a big day for me. I like that more than New Year's Eve. New Year's Day, I mean. March 4th is more of a, what am I doing this year? Marching forward, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a cool day for me.
It's like a new beginnings.
Yeah.
March 4th.
And so I like to do a yearly thing, rituals like that. And I don't do 3 gratitudes a day, but I will do it during the week. Well, I tried that for a while, about doing it every day. It just became a task.
Mm-hmm. Probably surface level, right?
Yeah.
If it's something. And there's actually a really important thing as our listeners, as all of us try to apply these things. If we're like, oh, this is awesome, I'm going to try these 6 things. And so then you make this big list of the gratitude things you're going to do. And then it's probably impossible for those to become embodiments.
And then you don't follow through on them, and then you stop doing them.
So just one small, simple thing and making it meaningful.
And it's, it's interesting. That was almost a bad question now that I look back, like what's one ritual you do? Because for me, making it a ritual lessens the experience a bit. But, and I'm definitely not a gratitude expert, but I have focused on mindfulness a lot lately. And just the practice of mindfulness and being more self-aware has made it much easier to have deeper gratitude.
Yeah.
Like if I'm just driving in the car alone, no music, those experiences just kind of come. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then you think of other things. So like I started rock counting this year, which is kind of a geeky thing to do, but I don't care. I got a little tumbler and I have a rock saw. And so I got some rocks from our different vacations we've been on and different things. And I've cut some slabs off of there. And all of my kids, their spouses and the grandkids, I put their names on a separate rock. And those rocks are at my house on the outside. And once a week, I move those rocks, one at a time. And so as I'm moving a rock, that I look at the names of the people on there, and sometimes I move them 5 feet, and sometimes I move them 30 feet, and I go put them back down. And so what am I doing? I'm embodying mindfulness of those kids and thinking about them.
It's a cool idea.
So
that's awesome.
You just make up some stuff like that, and some things stick and work, and some things don't. But just keep trying, and have a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the hope here with the listeners, that this can be things that can change your life as you develop these habits and learn to embody gratitude. But particularly this week, that you make time to embody the things that mean most to you. And that might be in a large family setting. That might be in a very small family setting. That might be for some by yourself. But we can take time to be grateful for something.
Right. I would challenge them to do one letter of someone that's been influenced their life.
The gratitude visit.
Yeah.
A couple people came to mind when you were mentioning that, and I wanna do that for sure.
It'll make you feel happier.
Yes. And I think just kind of a closing thought, gratitude isn't about ignoring what's hard, but it is about training your nervous system to recognize what's safe, steady, and meaningful, even in the chaos. And in fact, with a growth mindset, this takes a lot of maturity, but my wife is really good at this. She's grateful for what's hard. She's actually grateful for the hardest, most challenging things going on, and she views them as an opportunity to learn and grow.
I feel like it's almost like things I personally need to work on that I'm learning in these episodes. So but I think and I think some listeners this will resonate with, but the one thing that I grasped from this episode was that life is just so fast-paced nowadays. And just the reminder, you slow down in so many ways. Like you have to slow down to feel embodied gratitude.
Yeah, I guess I'd say two things. One, I'm really motivated to making Thanksgiving, intentionally making that day and that holiday to embody gratitude myself and to try to invite those around me that I'm celebrating with to do the same. That's one thing in the short term. In the long term, I like the practice of the gratitude visitation, the gratitude visit, writing the letter, setting up the time. I'm gonna do that this month, but that might be something I try to do on a semi-regular basis every month or two to do that. This was awesome. I think there's probably 10 things, but those are the two that come to mind first. Todd, this was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. We're grateful that you are. I'm actually really am grateful to be working with you over the last couple of years. You've really expanded my view of mental fitness, mental health, wellness. And this topic in particular, I feel a lot of gratitude for the things we discussed and your experience and knowledge.
Yeah, thank you. And happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Have an embodied one.
All right. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, add a comment, and share with your friends. We appreciate and are grateful for all you listeners. Thank you.